Namaste and greetings, guys. Today we're going to do a practice that I'm calling Yoga Pure and Simple. No convoluted sequencing, no party poses, nothing psychotic. If you're a beginner, I hope that you'll find this class very approachable. I'm going to show you a modified Sun Salute right at the beginning, and that can be your vinyasa or your Sun Salute throughout the whole practice. If you're a more seasoned practitioner, this could be good for you on days where you want to move, but you don't really want to go crazy. You're not looking for a lot of chaturanga opportunities or inversions or anything like that. So hopefully it'll be of some service to you. We're going to start over on our mat, standing. So come on up to the top, a little bit of space between your feet, about hip width apart. And then let's just hinge forward and take a forward fold. If your hands don't reach the floor, then just take a hold of opposite elbow or bicep. And a little sway side to side here, just to kind of warm up the low back. This is going to be a shape that we come back into a couple of times. Then pause in the center. Bring your hands to your shins. Come up about halfway. Lean through the spine. We're going to go into that first modified Sun Salutation. So this time on the exhale as we fold over, bend your knees if you can't get your hands to the floor otherwise. Step back to downward facing dog. Then we're going to come down into tabletop. And we're just going to do a few rounds of cat-cow. So inhale, soften the belly, tipping up the chin and the tailbone. Exhale, round into cat. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, and exhale into cat. 1 more. Inhale. Then this time on that exhale, as we come into that cat shape, curl those toes under, hips up, down dog. And then we're just going to walk our feet back up to the top of our mat. Come up about halfway. Exhale, fold. A little bend in the knees. Inhale, sweep all the way up. Exhale, hands through the heart. We're going to do it 1 more time like that. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, dive out over those legs. A little bend in those knees. Step back, downward facing dog. Knees to the floor. 3 cat-cows. Inhale into cow. Exhale into cat. Inhale. Exhale. 1 more. Inhale into cow. Flip those toes under. On that cat, hips up, downward facing dog. Let's hold it a couple of extra breaths here. If you need to wiggle around in the legs, feel free. Then we'll start to walk those feet back up to the tops of our mat. Again, a little bend in those knees, halfway up on the in-breath. Exhale, fold. Arms out to the side. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, hands through the heart. So again, that could be your vinyasa or your salutation for the rest of the practice. Otherwise, we're going to go into 3 Sun A's. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, dive out over your legs. Halfway up on that inhale. Exhale, fold. Let's step the right foot back, followed by the left foot, plank pose. Look out past your mat. Inhale. Exhale, all the way down onto the belly. You can always bring the knees to the floor first. Inhale, up into a little baby cobra pose. Roll those shoulders back and down. Gather in those elbows. Then we're going to flip those toes under. Tabletop to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. If you still feel the need to wiggle around, feel free, but maybe let this be the last time in down dog that you do that for class. Then look forward. We're going to step that right foot forward, followed by the left foot, halfway up on the inhale. Exhale, fold. Arms out to the side. Inhale, up. Exhale, hands through the heart. So do that 2 more times. Up on the inhale. Fold on the exhale. Little lift on that in-breath. This time on the exhale as you fold over. Left foot back, followed by right foot, plank pose. So again, if that lowering down is tender on the shoulders, knees to the floor, then to your belly, up into cobra. Roll those shoulders back and down. Another breath. Then flip the toes under, tabletop to down dog. 3 breaths. Seeing if you can find stillness this time. Then look up, left foot forward, followed by right foot, halfway up on that in-breath. Exhale, fold, arms out to the side, reach up on the in-breath. Exhale, hands to the heart. 1 more time. Inhale up. Exhale, fold over. Halfway up on the inhale. Exhale as you fold, pick a foot to step back. followed by the other one. Exhale, down to your belly. Inhale into cobra. Exhale, back to downward facing dog. One more breath. Then look up. Step 1 foot forward, followed by the other. Halfway up on your in-breath. Exhale, fold. Arms out, reach up on the inhale. Exhale, hands to the heart. We're going to go into 2 rounds of sun B next. A few more poses are going to be added. The first one, we're going to do a lunge. Then we'll amp it up on that second one. So your big toes touching. If that's not comfortable in your low back or hips, about a fist distance between your feet. Bend your knees, sink your hips back. Now as your hips go back, curl that tailbone under a little bit to take that crunch out of the low back and draw your chest and shoulders back. Arms straight out in front of us, or maybe up alongside our head. Good. Then exhale, fold over the legs as they straighten. Halfway up on the inhale. Exhale as you fold, step back to that plank pose. Now at this point, you could either, if you're kind of dying on the vine, go back to down dog. Or if you want to add that little push up into up dog, feel free. Of course, to the belly for cobra, always available. Back to down dog. Now this first go around, we're just going to do a lunge. So step that right foot forward between your hands. Try to keep this left knee lifted. Then bring the torso up to a high lunge. Eventually bringing these arms overhead. 2 points to consider in this lunge. These front ribs pulling into these back ribs, and this back hip pressing forward, and this front hip drawing back. One more inhale. Exhale, hands to the floor. Step back to dog. You could hold dog and just breathe. You could come through to that plank pose. Hold that for a couple of breaths, then go back to dog, or come down, take your back bend, and then back to downward facing dog. All right, look forward, left foot forward, keep that right knee lifted. Hands to your hips, bring your torso up. Same things to consider. Draw those front ribs, draw forward that back hip. Then maybe these arms overhead. Keep breathing. Another breath in. Exhale, hands to the floor. Back to down dog. So maybe you mix and match these. I'm going to stay in dog this time, but maybe you go through a vinyasa. Then finding your way back to downward facing dog. Look up at the top of your mat. Step up to the top. Halfway up. Exhale over. Arms out to the side. Reach up on the inhale. Exhale, hands to the chest. We're going to do that one more round. This time we're going to add in warrior one. If that pose doesn't respond well to your hips or your back, you can stick with that lunge that we just did. So feet together or a little bit apart. Draw that tailbone under as you sit down into chair pose. Keep the shoulder blades active on the back. Then exhale, fold over. Halfway up on the in-breath. Exhale, full plank, hands travel back your way. Look out past that mat. Exhale, down your way. Breathe into your back bend. Exhale, downward facing dog. Now this time in down dog, walk your feet about half a step closer to your hands. Then your right foot, big step forward between your hands. Left heel turns down. So maybe you have a line from heel to heel. Like we did in that lunge, we're drawing that right hip back and that left hip forward. As you draw this left hip forward, press down into that left pinky toe. And then torso coming up, arms alongside the head for warrior one. So again, you're still drawing in that belly and those front ribs. You're still dropping that tailbone. Let's do 2 more breaths here. Then exhale, hands to the floor, step back to plank, and then maybe dog or vinyasa, or just come back to down dog. Then when you find your way to down dog, shorten that up a little bit. Left foot forward, right heel down. Draw that right hip forward. Here we come, up into our high warrior one here, or high lunge. left side drawing back, right side drawing forward. And then hands to the floor. Back to plank, then a vinyasa, or to dog, or straight back to dog. Three breaths in this down dog. Then looking up at the top of your mat, step, hop, or float, feet about hip width apart. If your hands don't touch the floor, take a hold of opposite elbow or bicep, or hook these fingers around big toes. Come up about halfway. Then exhale, fold over those legs. Letting those elbows open up out to the sides. Chin towards the chest. Then either stay there or slide the palms of the hands up under soles of the feet. 3 more breaths. And then 3 of the hands. Come up about halfway. Long spine, strong belly, hands to the hips. Bring your torso up the rest of the way. All right, you're going to keep your right foot where it is. Let's step that left foot back about 3 feet or so. And we'll start with all toes pointing forward. So your feet are pretty wide, like maybe right under your wrist. We're going to turn the right toes out to face this short edge of your mat. Left toes are going to slightly turn in. We're going into Trikonasana triangle pose. So start with the hands on the hips. Lengthen the spine, draw that tailbone under, engage the belly, and then just kind of lean out over this right leg. Now as you lean over this right leg, keep pressing down into all toes, but especially that big toe and that pinky toe of this back foot. Then we're going to bring the right hand maybe just below the right knee on the shin. Lengthen your spine. Think more about your spine trying to stay parallel to the mat and not letting yourself kind of curve towards that right leg. And then left arm is going to reach up. And maybe you look to that top hand. Let's do 3 more breaths here. So good for the inner thighs and the hamstrings. All right, then torso coming up, hands to your hips. You're going to turn that right foot in, turn that left foot out. So again, your little superhero stance. Lean to the left. Elongate that spine as you lean. So the hips are going to kind of bump back a little bit. Anchor into that big toe and pinky toe. Then left hand to left leg, right hand reaching up. Let's do 3 more breaths. Then torso coming back up. We're going to pivot again. This time as you turn the right toes out, you're going to turn your hips and your shoulders in that same direction. So for me, I find to let my right foot go out to the right and hop my left foot up a little bit to be very helpful. Excuse me. We're going to do a revolve triangle now. So right hand, right hip. Lean forward, keep that spine long. Left hand to right shin. If you have a block, you could put a block under your hand. If you can get fingertips to the floor, you can do that. Otherwise, remember to stay on that right shin. Then as we press down into both feet, we're going to twist to the right. And maybe that right hand reaches up into the sky. Two more breaths. On this next exhale, draw your belly in, bring your torso up, pause, then pivot to the other side. If you don't pause, you get kind of caught up in that head rush. So with that length of the spine, you're still activating these front ribs. Hinge forward, keep squaring these hips. That right hand is maybe to the left shin, maybe to the floor or a block. And you twist to the left, and you let that left hand reach up. Three breaths. Next exhale, draw in that belly. Bring your torso up. Pivot to the front. 6 feet a little bit wider. This time, turn those left toes in. Turn those right toes out. Lunge into this right leg, building into warrior 2 here. So you could always scoot this foot forward a little bit. You are thinking about this knee over the ankle, trying not to go out beyond that. If you're behind it, perfectly fine. Arms that letter T, looking out over that front set of fingers. Shoulders down from the ears. We're going to add another pose into this. On the next exhale, right elbow, right knee, left arm up alongside the head. Now, one of the 2 key factors to consider in this is you want that right heel energetically moving towards the center of your mat while rolling that right hip under. If you want to go deeper in this pose, you could bring that right hand to the shin ankle or to the floor. One more breath. And then we're going to bring the torso back up, hands to the hips, switch it out. Left foot in, right foot out. Let's lunge into that left leg. Make our little letter T arms here. If you're a pro at this pose, it's good to sometimes just do a practice where you're in the pose and not thinking about what your next move is going to be. Left elbow, left knee, right arm up alongside the head. And sometimes I think we forget when we do these power classes and these vinyasa classes that each one of these poses has a benefit to it. This is such a great hip opener right here. Then inhale, back up, straighten that leg. Let's turn and face the top of our mat. Step up, hands at the heart. Inhale. Big open mouth, exhale. Next inhale, sweep up those arms. Exhale, fold over those legs. Halfway up on your inhale. Exhale as you fold either to plank and then to vinyasa or straight back to down dog. Then this time, right foot forward between the hands, left knee down. Uncurl those left toes. For an easier version, this left knee can be directly under your left hip. For a little bit more of a stretch, scoot that left knee back. Hands are going to come up to that right leg. Tall spine. So it's kind of like you're about to propose or get knighted here. Press that left hip forward, lunge a little more into that right leg. And then you get some hip flexor, quad stretch on that left side. We're going to go into a hip opener from here. I'm going to walk you through it and give you an opportunity to tap out and come into an alternative pose. Hands to the floor. Walk your right foot over to the left side of your mat and lay the leg down. You're essentially laying your right knee behind your right wrist. And then walk that left leg back. Now, if you really open in the hips, your right shin might run parallel to the short edge of your mat. Most of us are not there. And for me, my right heel kind of ends up like right around my left hip, which I think is actually pretty good because I think that's a little bit of an acupressure point. Now, if you're here and your right knee or your hip or your back are like, this is not a good position, I'm going to encourage you to come onto your back and do your right ankle to left leg and hug in that left leg. Okay? Now, if you're with me, we're going to walk those hands forward, and you want to be very mindful of not crashing down into this right hip and just kind of laying on your right side. You want the hips more or less facing your mat. You can stay on forearms, elbows. Some people will be able to come down to the chest and rest a cheek on the floor. Tip your chin down just a little bit. Feel free to let some exhales fall out of the mouth here. If you're new to yoga, you will probably develop a love-hate relationship with this pose called pigeon. If you've been doing this for a while, your relationship with this pose has probably run the gamut. Let's do about 20 more seconds. Then you're going to walk your hands back towards you, bring your torso up. If you're on your back, uncross your ankle and hug those knees in. If you're with me, I like to curl these back toes under and a pretty generous hop with that back knee. Then step back to down dog. If you're on your back, roll over, find your way to down dog. All right, then we're going to step that left foot forward and bring that right knee down. Remember, you can be up under that hip or a little bit behind it. Then the hands to that left leg, tall spine, hip pressing forward as you lunge into that left leg. Oh, this is really good if you, either end of the spectrum, if you're super active, if you're a runner, cyclist, and you have that constant contract and release, this is a good stretch for that. If you do a lot of sitting, you're in constant contraction, this is a good stretch for that. All right? Then we're going to bring the hands to the floor. I'm going to encourage you to do whatever pose you did last go around. So if you went onto your back, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, right foot over towards that left side of your mat. If you need support under the hip, you can roll a blanket. If you have a yoga block, you can put that there. Then we'll come down to forearms, elbows. Always finding hip openers. One hip plays a little better with others. So for me, my left hip tends to be a little crankier. And so a lot of times I'll have to use some support under this hip. Let's do about 20 more seconds here. And walk those hands back towards you. That's the sound you make when, like, that hip finally lets go. Oh. Hop that right knee forward a little bit. Step back, down dog. Maybe here you pedal out these legs a little bit. Then we're going to bring those knees to the mat. Walk them forward a little bit. Cross your ankles. Sit back behind your feet or come over to a hip. We're going to come into a seated forward fold called Paschimottanasana. So both legs are going to be extended in front of you, and you're going to reach back and kind of pull some of the junk out of the trunk. Toes are going to point straight up towards the ceiling. We're going to reach these arms up on the inhale. Exhale, hinge forward. If you can grab feet, go for it. If it's an ankle or shin situation, go for that. If you have a strap, we're going to use that in a little bit. You could put that around the soles of your feet. If you are tender in your low back, keep some length in the spine, and don't think about coming over as far. If you're a little more happy in that low back area, lift up off the hips and waist, hollow out that belly, and you can hinge forward a little bit more, drop your head towards the shins, and you can let a little bit of roundness come into these mid-back and upper back areas. We're going to hold for about 5 more breaths. Two more. Then reach through the arms, sweep up on that inhale. Exhale, hands alongside the hips. Long spine, bow your head just a little bit, close your eyes. And then open the eyes back up. We're not quite done with these hips. Bring the knees towards your chest till the soles of your feet come together. And you're going to let the knees open up. It's called Baddha Konasana, sometimes called cobbler or butterfly pose. Lengthen up the spine on the inhale. Exhale, hinge forward. Now, if you want to work a little bit more of those hip flexors, don't go over quite as much. Just tip forward maybe about 30% or so, and keep the spine really long and the belly engaged. And you'll work a little bit more inner thigh hip flexor. Now, if you want to add the outer hip area into that, come over a little bit more and very gently round into that upper back and a little bit into that mid back. Your chin is towards your chest, not quite on it. And I like to bring my hands to the floor, and that helps me to breathe into that spot right between those shoulder blades. Let's go with 5 more breaths here. And we're going to walk the hands back towards us. We're going to bring those legs up, but this time we're going to take the legs out to the side. So open the legs pretty wide, as wide as you can. You're not trying to make yourself a wishbone here. And you want to make sure that you're not kind of caving under that tailbone. So keep the spine pretty long. I have kind of long arms, so I can easily grab a hold of my feet. If you don't, just hold onto your ankles or your shins. Lengthen up that spine. Keep these legs active, so toes pointing straight up, pressing your heels into the floor. And you're just going to come over maybe about 20% or so. And just kind of give yourself a little moment here, maybe to rock side to side in the hips. And then find you some stillness. You might keep a hold of the tops of the feet. You might bring your hands to the pinky toe side of your feet. And that might help you to come over a little bit more. If you are up here, you're doing fantastic. Any expression of the pose is the pose. This is not an easy pose for me. I think those of us that tend to run a little tight in the hips and the low back, anything where we got to go into something in the split family, we're usually like, oh, no, not that. Now, you might eventually get your hands to the floor and bow your head towards the floor. If you're inherently flexible in your hamstrings, hips, and your thighs, y'all can probably walk your hands all the way out and get your chest onto the floor. And just know when you do that in a class full of the rest of us, we do kind of give you side eye. And I have heard some name calling. Let's do 2 more breaths here. And we're going to walk those hands back to us, bringing up the torso. You might have to use the hands like little jaws of life. Bend your knees. We're going to cross the legs, right leg in front of left. Lengthen your spine. Full breath in, full breath out. Let's take our left hand over to our right knee, our right hand behind us. Take a nice little twist here. And come back to the center. Switch the legs, left leg in front. Right hand to that left knee, left hand behind you. Excuse me. Taking a little twist there. And we'll bring everything back to the center. We're going to do a little bit of some core stuff here. We're going to play with a pose called boat pose, Navasana. Another one you will eventually probably develop a love-hate relationship with. So find your way onto your sit bone. You might kind of have to wiggle some of that stuff out of the trunk there. So you're going to be balanced on your sit bones and your tailbone. And start with your hands maybe on the front of your thighs. And then you're just going to lean back and engage the belly. This could be your boat for a while. Your boat could be tied to the dock. You could bring those hands behind you or just lift your feet a couple of inches off the floor. And then maybe let go. We're going to keep the boat pretty small today. At any point, you can bring those heels to the floor, and just that leaning back and that long spine will engage your belly. And then maybe you lift the heels again. And then heels down, hands to the front, long spine. A little bit of core work there. Scoot those hips forward. We're going to come down onto our back. We're going to go into bridge pose. So a nice little counter to boat and a back bend, heart and chest opener. Have your feet about hip width apart and see if you can just brush your heels with your fingertips. We're going to bend the elbows so the palms are facing each other. Then as you press your triceps into the floor, wiggle that right shoulder under and that left shoulder under, just a little bit. Then as you're pressing the head, the shoulders, the arms, the feet into the floor, curl that tailbone up. Start to lift up those hips, just till you get to the point where it feels comfortable. Again, you want to keep that tailbone curled under so you get that stretch across the quads. Then scoot your shoulder blades a little closer to each other. Then your hands are either going to come to your mat. They might hold on to the edges of your mat. They might interlace under you. If you did the interlace, roll the top of the right shoulder under, followed by the left shoulder. Tip your chin up. Ground on the inhale. Press up on the exhale. It's also a little bit of an inversion here, meaning it gets the blood flow back to your head a bit. Good. Keep breathing. Then we're going to release the hands. I like to walk those shoulder blades apart from each other first, then come down vertebrae by vertebrae till your low back's on the floor. Fight the urge of hugging your knees into the chest. We're going to do that one more time. But you could take a deep breath in and open the mouth, big breath out. All right, so we're going to do it again, same setup. So think about it this way, as your hips are coming up, you want to wiggle those shoulder blades towards each other while that's happening. That way it doesn't feel like you have to gather everything up once you have these hips into the floor. So wiggle the shoulders in a little bit. Then we start to press up those hips, walking shoulder blades closer the whole time. Then the option for your hands that suits you. Maybe this go around, you do the interlace of the fingers. So ground on the inhale, press hips up on the exhale. Two more breaths. And then release those hands, walk the shoulder blades away from each other. Try not to crash down to your floor, but mindfully come down. Give yourself 2 full breaths once that low back is on your mat. And then we're going to hug the knees in. Oh, a little bit of rocking side to side there. So from here, we're going to go into an inversion. If you have a yoga block, it could be very helpful. If you don't, it's not necessary. So on your back, like you would for bridge pose, we're going to do an inversion called Viparita Karani. It's a great alternative to a shoulder stand if you have a neck shoulder issue. So I'm going to lead you through that, and then I'm going to come out and I'll take you through shoulder stand if you want to play with that. So same setup as you would for bridge. Lift up your hips. I like to keep the block on the low setting. Slide it up underneath low back tailbone. You want to make sure your butt feels like it's supported here. Then knees over the hips, legs straight up. Arms are going to be alongside you, either palms down if you need to feel grounded, palms up if you want to feel like you're inviting something in. So a nice easy inversion here. If you want to go with shoulder stand, this is where I'm going. If you have a neck shoulder situation, probably not a good idea. If you have glaucoma, probably not a great idea. High blood pressure. Some schools of thought say that if you're on your period, that it's probably not a good idea. So just know these things going into it. All right. So otherwise, knees bent, feet on the floor. My palms are pressing into my mat. You're going to need to engage a little bit of core here. You're going to rock these knees towards your forehead. And then your hand right to your low back. And then walk those shoulders in and those elbows in. And then take your legs overhead and then see if you can get them straight up to about a 90-degree angle. And we'll see if we can go for, let's see how many breaths we'll do here. Let's see if we can go for 20 breaths. Halfway there. Then bend the knees towards the forehead. You might extend the legs overhead again. Then hands to the floor. Slowly roll down, vertebrae by vertebrae. If you're on the block and your knees or your legs are straight up, knees to the chest, then the feet to the floor. Lift up your hips, slide that block out from underneath you. Everyone pause, whether your knees are bent or straight. Bring our hands behind the head, one on top of the other. You're going to bring your chin to your chest, wrap your forearms around your head, and just let the weight of your head drop into your hands. So it's a good counter for both of those poses. And then we'll bring the head down. Let's hug that right knee into the chest and send that left leg out. Point and flex this right ankle. Roll it around 2 or 3 times, both directions. Then we're going to take that right leg over to the left for a nice supine twist. Reach that right arm. If you can't have it in line with your shoulder, bring the arm down alongside your torso. And either look straight up or look over your right shoulder. And this pose you could do every day just because it feels so good. And then we'll come back to the center. Bring in that left knee, send out that right leg. Point, flex, roll that left ankle around, both directions. Then we're going to take that left leg over to the right. Again, left arm can be alongside you or more in line with that left shoulder. Then come back to the center, hug both knees in, maybe go for a happy baby pose. Rocking a little bit side to side. And then bring your feet to the floor, your knees bent. Bring one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly. Let your eyes close. Take a deep breath in. Fill up your belly, your ribs, your chest. Open your mouth. Exhale. We're going to do a breathwork technique called the square breath or the box breath. So inhale to the count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. Again, inhale to 4, hold, exhale to 4, hold for 4. We're going to do that 3 more times. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause. Breathe in. Retain the breath. Breathe out. Retain the breath. Last round. In. Hold. Out. Hold. Deep breath in. As you open the mouth to exhale, drop the arms down beside you. Extend your legs out. Roll your feet in and out a few times. Wiggle out the fingers and the toes. We're going to do a sort of an abbreviated yoga nidra here. It's a mindful contract and release of the muscles of your body, and it's a guided relaxation. We'll do that, and then that will lead us right into our Shavasana. So extend out the arms and the legs. Bring your attention to the feet. Flex your feet so your toes are pointing up. And on the exhale, soften the feet. Inhale, flex the feet, tighten the muscles of the calves. Exhale, soften the calves and the feet. Inhale, flex the feet, tighten the calves, tighten the thighs. Open the mouth as you exhale, soften the thighs, the calves, the feet. Inhale, flex the feet, tighten the muscles of the legs, squeeze the glutes, feel your hips lift, hold. Then on the exhale, soften the glutes, soften the legs, soften the feet. Inhale, flex the feet, tighten the legs, squeeze the glutes, puff up the belly, hold. Open the mouth, let the belly drop, soften the glutes, the legs, the feet. Inhale, flex the feet, tighten the legs, squeeze the glutes, puff out the belly, make fist with the hands, hold at the top. Exhale, soften the fist and everything from the belly down. Inhale, flex the feet, tighten the legs, squeeze the glutes, puff out the belly, make fists, tighten the muscles of the arms, hold, expand the breath up into the ribs. Then on the exhale, soften everything. Starting at the feet, inhale, flex, tighten everything up, legs, feet, glutes, arms, puff out the belly, expand the ribs, breathe up into the chest, hold. Sip in a little more. Then on the exhale, soften everything from the chest down to the feet. Good. Starting at the feet. Inhale. Draw that breath in through the soles of the feet. Tighten everything up along the way. The legs, the glutes, the arms. Puff out the belly. Expand the ribs. Lift the chest. Draw the shoulders up to the ears. Hold the breath at the top. Sip in a little more. Tighten up a little more. Open the mouth, drop everything. 2 more times. Starting that breath at the feet. Inhale, flex those feet, tighten everything up. Squeeze the glutes, tighten the arms, belly, chest, shoulders up, scrunch up the face, squeeze the eyes, purse the lips, hold. Sip in more, tighten more. Sip in more, tighten more. Open the mouth. Let it all go. One last time. Again, imagine that breath comes in through the soles of your feet. As you breathe in, flex the feet, tighten the legs, squeeze the glutes, puff out the belly, the ribs, the chest, fist with hands, tighten the arms, shrug up the shoulders, scrunch up the face, maybe lift the head an inch off the floor. Hold. Sip in more, tighten more. Sip in more, tighten more. Then open mouth, let everything drop. Deep breath in, big sigh out. Feel the weight of your body on your mat, on your floor. Starting at the back of your head, maybe a little side to side with the head, till you find that little sweet spot. The eyebrows dropping towards your temples. Your upper lid of your eye barely touching the lower lid. The lower jaw dropping down from the upper jaw. You can feel a little space between the back of your neck and the floor. Your shoulders heavy onto the mat. The backs of your arms on the mat. Feeling space in your hands, space between each finger. The weight of your upper body heavy on the floor. A gentle rise and fall of the diaphragm as you breathe in and out. The hips resting heavy on your mat. The back of your thighs, the back of your calves, the back of your heels. Maybe your feet are kind of dropped open. You might feel space between some toes and then feel some toes touching. But you're going deeper and deeper into that space of being, and just temporarily leaving that space of doing behind you for a bit. Maybe you see colors kind of swirling around in your mind's eye. As a thought pops in, let it float by. Like those little floaters you get sometimes when you close your eyes. To-do list pops into your head, just kindly say to yourself, not now, and let it float by. If the thoughts or the chatter continue, just say to yourself, gentle, gentle, and then say your name. Gentle, gentle, Stephen. And mindfully and easefully begin to deepen your breath. Just letting that next inhale be deeper than the one before, and your exhale a little longer. Let your toes wiggle a bit, and your fingers. And maybe you point and flex the feet and roll around the ankles. And roll around the wrist. Rock the hips side to side. Maybe press the shoulders into your mat, kind of arch your back a little bit. A little side to side with the head. And maybe taking the arms up and over, giving yourself a big stretch with a sigh or with a yawn. Bringing either your knees to your chest or your feet to the floor. Keeping the eyes closed, roll over to your right side and use that left hand to help prop you up to a seated position. And then when you find that seat, just place your palms over the heart center, right at the center of your chest. So I think sometimes in a yoga practice we forget that some of these poses feel good and that it's okay to do them just for that purpose of feeling good. We don't need to always approach our mat in this sort of aggressive way of, I'm going to do a one-armed handstand today, or I'm going to put my ankles behind my head. Sometimes we just need to get some space in the body, calm the breath, calm the mind. Take a deep breath in. Anything helpful or of service over the last hour, hold on to. On the exhale, let the rest of it go. I'm honored that you chose to spend this time with me, and I hope that this pose is of some, or this practice rather, is of some use to you, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.